Hey, man, I just want to say thanks again so much to you and Rose for this book because, it means a lot to me in my collection. But for what I understand, you have a version of this book that will make me feel like I got served.
Well, okay, so no, it's not the full book. But what this is, it's the 10th anniversary edition of the Heroin Diary. So it's signed by the
Whoa.
band, right? And it's cool because the vinyl's housed in there. It's got a poster in there. It's got a little book that goes through every song, lyric by lyric. And it's pretty special. So I got that. Oh, I've got this too. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad or anything, but I do got this too from Tommy. Drum skin. Wait. No, this. Hey, is this? Nah, this is just a regular copy.
I finally understand the expression. I lost for words. I literally just I produced air for the last 10 seconds.
When this showed up. When this showed up, I'm like, I got a little something for you, and you've seen it. It hangs in my room very, very, very proudly. So, yeah, it's
wow.
Yeah, I think we're the right people to be talking about this today. Hey, welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour. This is episode 2. Just want to take a minute to thank you for all the great warm wishes about episode 1. We are just as excited about this new podcast as seemingly some of you are. So thank you. It means the absolute world to myself, to Ryan, to Julia, and to all of us who work on the Rockman Power Hour. So I just want to take a second to say thank you. Really excited about this week's episode because this week's episode has somebody that means a lot to me as a fan of Motley Crue and means a lot to my co-host Ryan, who also is a massive fan of Motley Crue. But before we get to that, Ryan, I always want to take a minute before we start this to thank our sponsor. And we're really happy to have on board Prospect Strings. They're joining us again to sponsor this episode. And listen, Ryan, you checked out their site. They've got everything you need if you have a string instrument. Prospect are where it's at. And definitely suggest go check out Wayne's website. Go check out the friendly staff online at Prospect. They can get you whatever you need. If you've got a stringed instrument, they've got imported bass strings. They have got great guitars. They've got all kinds of stuff. So go check them out online, Prospect Strings. Thank you again for sponsoring this episode of the Rockman Power Hour.
Awesome.
Ryan.
Yeah.
This is the one you've been waiting for.
I didn't realize I was waiting for it until you told me the possibility that we might get Nikki Sixx, and kind of like a kid at Christmas who thinks his parents are full of crap when they're like, yeah, we might get you that Nintendo. I had a safeguard. I'm just like, I'm not going to let this happen until I see the interview on my computer. And I recall editing you at 2:30 in the morning and saying, so you did it.
Yeah.
And that was... It's incredible, man. I fell in love with Motley Crue when I was a kid, but at a time when Motley Crue were kind of arguably at their worst, you could say, during Generation Swine.
Yeah.
When Tommy Lee did an appearance on SNL because he was with Pamela Anderson, and he's like, yeah, dude, I got this new album coming out, Generation Swine. And he's on Remember the A's with Goat Boy. And I'm like, this guy seems really cool. I'll check out this Generation Swine. And lo and behold, years later, I had no idea that Motley Crue were an 80s band. So it's kind of funny. I fell into Motley Crue at the oddest way and fell into them backwards. And yeah.
It's just funny because I remember, you've worked with me on a lot of my other projects. I've done stuff when I've had, you've been there behind the camera for so many interviews that I've done over the past, with Shom, with iHeart, with the Comic-Con. You've traveled with me to do stuff. We spent a weekend with DMC documenting his record signing for Record Store Day. So we've spent a lot of time together, and I hadn't realized how big of a Nikki Sixx fan you were, but we got on that subject once. And I think I had done an audio interview with him for Shom a few years back. And I remember saying to you, yeah. And you were just like, and you're not somebody that freaks out. I've told you some pretty big stuff sometimes, and you seem to be like, all right, that's cool. But then I imagine you get off the phone and you're like, ah! But
It's the kid at Christmas effect I was telling you about. I'm
right.
full of crap. I'm full of crap, Jason. I am excited at all times. I just put on my cool face. Yeah.
Well, that's it. So the cool faces was on, but I know that I remember because I have a friend of mine that works with Motley's management, and I remember reaching out to her and saying, "Hey, could I get something cool for my buddy because he loves Nikki?" And I remember I got you one of his books that was signed. I'm correct, right? There you go.
Yes.
So I remember, and let's open it up to that signature page. I want to see that because I remember getting that to you, and I remember you were so happy. You were so happy.
Yeah. Dude, if I could, I can't tell you how many times I've read The Dirt. Like it's unbelievable. My dad's a martial artist, and one of his students told me about it and lent me it. And I recall going to a house party that night. This was a true story, and reading it on the bus ride there, and then proceeding to get to the house party, find a quiet corner, and proceed to binge read it all night compulsively, ignoring the said party that I was supposed to be at.
Yeah.
Because it was just so compelling. And what's interesting about today in your interview with Nikki is that I believe like chapter 2 is when Nikki starts to tell his origin story, an abridged version of his origin story. And then you're telling me that this book's coming out where it's like, it's all about his old life. And that's fascinating.
So so this is the thing. So Nikki Sixx, obviously, he's an accomplished author. Everyone knows him from Motley Crue. 6 a.m. have cemented their legacy as a rock band now too. I mean, they've been around for quite a while. And he wanted to tell his story about, becoming Nikki Sixx when he was Frank Farana, and Frank Farana is his real name. Before that, no one really knew who this guy was. And here he is coming from this small town. And we never really heard the story about, before he changed his name. And like you said, it was kind of glossed over, but you did get the idea, especially in the movie, The Dirt. A lot of people got to see that he did have a bit of a troubled past. So to get the entire story of what drove him to get on a bus, go to LA and start a band, start London and do all that stuff. It's fascinating. So he put out this book called The First 21. It's how I became Nikki Sixx. And I'll tell you, I've gotten about halfway through it, and it's such a good read. And this is the thing with Nikki too. Nikki's books are really, I don't want to say they're easy to read, but they're very reader friendly. And and I like that because, and we touched on that in the interview, but it's nice to be able to have something that you can read. And it's, I mean, like, look, last week's episode was about Dune. Okay. Dune is a incredible novel, but really hard to get through. And that's the biggest thing with Dune. Everyone says, I want to get into the Dune books. There's so many great Dune books. There's that great trilogy, but it's really tough to read because it's so descriptive. There's so much stuff going on. There's so many characters, but you pick up something that Nikki's read, and I don't know if he keeps in consideration the reader when he's writing, or if it's just how he is, but it's easy to get into, and it's comfortable, and it's not daunting. It's I don't want to say it's because it's not dumbed down. It's not at all. It's just, and I don't want to say it's in layman's terms, but it's just, it's an easy read, but it's compelling. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on in his books. I mean, Heroin Diaries, like it's heavy stuff, So, but Nikki's a great read, and he's a great author, and he's a great artist all around. I mean, the guy's done so many things. And when I got the chance to have him on the podcast, I was really, really excited. And I was excited for you because, listen, we both love Motley Crue. It's like,
if I had time today, I would have wore the face paint from Shadow of the Devil. And we're like, and here's my producer, Ryan.
That would have been great. You should totally tease your hair. You should have had all that. And it's great because there's such, the 4 members of Motley are such, individually different characters. You got Tommy, who's just they all stand on their own as these characters, but when they come together, Motley is really special. And that's why I think, whatever people want to say about Vince Neil, they need Vince in that band. If Vince isn't there, if Mick's not there, it's just not the same. It's just not the same.
It's true, man. And you're totally right about how Nikki's books are so excessive. Well, they're excessive, but they're also accessive. Because like a Motley Crue song, you get everything you need in 3 minutes. I mean, technically speaking, could Nikki write 9-minute songs? Yeah. Because he's a great writer, but he doesn't want to do that to you. He wants you to get a real, he wants to pack a punch with his writing, with his photography, with his songwriting. He's consistent like that. And he's a really, as you could see in your interview, an extremely smart guy. He
Yeah.
is an intellectual, but he also knows his audience and he knows how to speak to us.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate it because I feel like he's never talking down to me when I'm reading the books. I find sometimes when you throw in $7 words, it just doesn't come off as authentic as the author would like. I've tried to read Starship Troopers 5 freaking times, man. It's the most boring book in the world. It's the most rad movie. The movie of Starship Troopers is the Nikki Sixx Motley Crue version of what that book is.
Right. No, I know. And it's fun. It's fun when you think that this guy, he had all the chips stacked against him that he wouldn't even be alive now. And the fact that he overcame his addiction, the fact that he's had continuous sobriety for all these years, and the fact that he's still pumping out content that actually people care about is great. I mean, he's in his 60s now, and he looks amazing. He sounds great. He's writing great. He wrote a song for this with 6 a.m. called The First 21, which is kind of like the companion piece to the book. It's a great song. When they wrote the Dirt, they needed a song for the movie. They wrote a couple of songs for the movie, but and the Netflix movie. I mean, we're going to talk about that too, but man, how good is that song, The Dirt? I love that song. It's great. It's as good.
When people like Machine Gun Kelly. Not so much right now.
God. Okay. You got to ask yourself, why do you pick a fight with Corey Taylor? Are you insane? Like, first of all, it's like you don't pick a fight with Corey Taylor because Corey Taylor's fans and Slipknot fans are the most loyal fans. I think the only fans that I've seen that are more loyal than Slipknot fans would be Metallica fans. And Metallica fans can be fickle. They're like Star Wars fans. They want everything. They want the original stuff. But Slipknot fans, they will eat anything that's force-fed to them from Slipknot. They just love Slipknot. They die by live and die by Slipknot. They have Slipknot S's tattooed all over them. They're hardcore. Why do you pick a fight with Corey Taylor? And you've seen do you know the backstory?
Yeah.
What happened?
I know the beef. He was on stage and he says, at least I'm not some creepy guy wearing a mask when I'm 50 years old.
Right.
And I'm just like, dude, you got it. Machine Gun Kelly. You seem like a cool guy, but you got to start making better life choices, buddy.
Well, see, the thing is, and then what happened was there was a reaction to that, right? Everybody's like, oh man, what's the beef? So the beef was, and it was pretty well documented after that because there was a lot of back and forth. He was supposed to be, meaning Corey Taylor, was supposed to be on Machine Gun Kelly's solo record, which is coming out in December.
Oh,
Corey Taylor was asked, like a lot of people asked, to get him to do stuff because he's if he's somebody that if he's attached to your project, it's gonna get a lot of eyeballs. So Machine Gun Kelly wanted Corey Taylor to be on the record. Machine Gun Kelly sent Corey Taylor a part to record. Corey Taylor sent back his verse, and Machine Gun Kelly was so excited about it, but wanted to make some little changes. And he said, I was wondering if you could maybe shorten this part. I can't, and I don't want to paraphrase, but it was along the lines of like, maybe you could change the part a little bit. Maybe you could try these lyrics. It was this kind of thing. And then Corey Taylor just said, you know what? I think I might not be the right guy for this, but thanks for the opportunity. And he was butthurt. Machine Gun Kelly was butthurt over that. So he went on and started dissing him. And then Corey Taylor was like, dude, the story's way more than people think. And then Corey Taylor posted screenshots of the email correspondence where basically Machine Gun Kelly was like, oh my God, dude, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, we're so happy you did this. Could you make these small little changes? And it's like, for example, okay, DMC. We know DMC. DMC.
We do.
I approached D and I said, D, would you mind doing something for the podcast intro song, which you just heard 12 minutes ago? Okay. D sends me something. I'm like, thank you. I'm not looking to edit it. I'm not looking to give him any tips. I'm like, I appreciate it. We will work with what you gave us. And we did. And I gave it to Brett I gave it to Brett Epic, Missouri, and he took it. He made some little changes to the beat, made it work.
Yeah, but not the vocals.
Are you kidding me? So think of that, right? So it's just it's a general respect thing. And I get where he's coming from. So so that whole thing, Machine Gun Kelly, it's unfortunate because he really, really impressed a lot of people in the Dirt when he played Tommy Lee. He was phenomenal. Okay.
Yeah.
He was really good. And I think it's too bad. Personally, I think it's too bad. And I hope that gets ironed out, because first of all, Paper Cuts, the first song from the record that's coming out in December, is really, really good. And supposedly the rest of the Machine Gun Kelly record's good too. But right now he's having a hard time. So let's try to go back to those great times when the Dirt came out.
Yeah.
And Machine Gun Kelly was on the Dirt song, and everyone was talking about that movie, and everyone was like, oh, because remember, Machine Gun Kelly pissed some people off before with Eminem.
With Eminem, yeah.
Like, again, you take a shot at the king. Like, why are you taking a shot at Eminem? He's going to bury you. And he did.
Yeah, he's like standing over Elvis's grave, just urinating on his tombstone, being like, "What you gonna do, Memphis? What you gonna do?" Dude. Yeah.
So, anyways, going back to the Dirt. Dirt was a phenomenal movie. The song was great. And it just shows, again, Nikki Sixx is not past his prime. He's still working in it. Yeah.
And Motley Crue keep writing these great tunes. And frankly, the Saints of Los Angeles, even want to go back to there.
Love that song.
It's a great tune. You were mentioning 6 a.m. I love the song Life is Beautiful.
Yes.
But Accidents Can Happen is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That song is amazing. And the guy he works with, he's the producer of the last Motley Crue albums, the singer of 6 a.m. And his name escapes me at the second, forgive me. But, I don't remember anyone's name.
It's all right.
Unless they're strange, unless it's a odd name like Machine Gun Kelly, apparently. But that movie, I wanted to see a Motley Crue movie for so long, and for so long in Hollywood, it was the thing in development. And at one point, Austin Kutcher was supposed to play Tommy Lee at one point. And it's amazing that this movie could have been so many things, but it turned out to be. And as much as I complained, I'm like, I wish it was longer. It didn't have this part.
It could have been. I could have been a good miniseries.
It could have been a great miniseries.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm not going to ever. I actually don't have many criticisms when it comes to the Dirt, because I got everything I needed from that. It was great, but I wanted more, which I guess is kind of, that you've accomplished something if you want more. If you're walking away from the movie and you're going, I want more, then they did their job. But yeah, as a selfish Crue fan, I was like, I want more of this. I want 6 hours of this. So in essence, if you want more of the story, you're going to get it in the first 21. It's available everywhere now. I'm so excited about this, Ryan, because, we're just starting this off and we're coming out guns blazing. We do the first episode. We've got Denis Villeneuve. We've got Rebecca Ferguson, and, everyone's been talking about Dune this whole week. The movie's just exploding. Okay. And we got Bill from Mastodon, who was on our first episode. And then we're rolling right into episode 2 with Nikki Sixx. So I think it's safe to say that we're not pulling any punches with this.
Nope. We are definitely a live wire.
Yes, we are a live wire. So without any further ado, here is Nikki Sixx. All right. Really, really happy to welcome to the Rockman Power Hour today, Nikki Sixx. Nikki, pleasure to chat with you face to face for the first time, man.
How you doing? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm excited about this new book because I love reading your books, because first of all, I think you're a great author, and I think you write from a point of view where anyone can jump in. There's some people that write, and nothing against the way you write, because I think the way you write is it's descriptive, it's emotional, it's honest, and I think that's a great way for people to dive into literature, because literature and books can be kind of daunting for some people.
No, they can be, and you need to write from a place of transparency. And it wasn't hard for me to make the jump when if we first did the Dirt. It was an interesting way of writing, because it was our voices, and Neil Strauss was writing it out. And in my case, at least, I'm not sure about the other guys, I would go through and I'd be kind of like right on top of his writing lightly.
Right.
Kind of like almost like editing or something, but keeping it honest. But then when the Heroin Diaries was like, this has already been written and super transparent. Obviously, I didn't think anybody would ever see those. And then the work that we did inside to show addiction and recovery.
Yeah.
Showing things like that, you can slip.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean stay out there. And then with 6 a.m. writing a song called Accidents Can Happen, the transparency in the lyrics and the poetry or the writing, it's just such a part of me. I feel almost like an oversharer.
Yeah.
I just, and like I'm a sponge. So like where we live in Wyoming, like when it snows, it looks like you're on the moon, and I'm driving my truck. And it's like the brain, you remove the alcohol and the drugs and the resentment and, all this layers of stuff. And there's this like innocent, creative brain that needs to be honest. And that's what I'm happy to hear that you've found. A lot of people told me they find that in the books, that they could relate to it because I'm not writing above their head.
Right.
I'm not talking down to them. And I'm not talking up to them, even if it's my heroes. I'm looking you straight in the eye because we're like all the same. We're all in this. We're all in this damn thing together.
And that's the thing with with this book. I just got it maybe 2 days before we were actually scheduled this, so I didn't get a lot of time to dive in. But I got to read, and I love the way you frame this. You talk about never played Dodger Stadium. You go through this whole thing. Looks like I'm going to be playing Dodger Stadium. So just that as a story was great. But I'm dying to dive into this because this is a story, the first 21, this is a story where people might not know Frank, they know Nikki, but they don't know Frank. And if you want to really know more about Nikki, you got to know who Frank is.
Right. And that's kind of back to that transparency thing. Even when we were looking for photos and, finding my first girlfriend and finding my first best friends and this person and family members, like there was this whole series of things that happened to me that I am positive has happened to almost everybody, male or female.
Yeah.
Someone in their family has already decided what they're going to look like. In my case, my grandfather, born in 1927, and my grandmother, they were basically my mom and dad. They raised me. Well, when I started seeing things like Aerosmith and the Stones and, I'm like, now those guys look cool. Yeah, I don't want to roll this flat top anymore. And I'm not into working on the potato farm for the rest of my life. So you start dreaming, and the struggle of growing your hair out is something that we just all kind of like, oh yeah, I remember I had a bad haircut. I'm like, put it in the book. Like I just like right in there, another bad haircut. There I am. And I remember when I was like, the teacher's like, he's just squinting all the time. He can't see the chalkboard. So I had to get glasses. And when you're in Jerome, Idaho, or Twin Falls, Idaho, your chances of getting cool glasses are zero.
Zilch. You get basically what they have at Sears, right?
I thought until I saw these photos recently that my glasses looked like Elvis. Right. And my hair was like long, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of like Keith Richards. I'm like Elvis Keith Richards. I look back on those photos, dude. I'm lucky anybody had even talked to me. I'm a serial killer. 100% a serial killer, man. Put me on a Greyhound bus to go to LA. There's serial killers and serial killers. That's it.
Would you like to see my collection of birds?
Yes. Like I have these cattails I've been saving.
So you, obviously this last year and a half has had a lot of people reflect, and I've seen a lot of people clean things out, go through mementos, and someone like you must have so much of that. You must have so many memories, so many things that are boxed away. And when you're rolling, like the way you've been rolling for all these years, when you have a minute to stop and you're forced to stop, a lot of people go through and they dig out the shoe boxes and they start. Was that kind of the motivation for this?
I mean, in kind of a overview, in a sense, yeah. But previous to that, years ago, me and my wife were. I have 5 children. I have 4 older kids in college, working, and they're out of the house and they're doing their own thing. And me and my wife wanted to have a baby again, or a baby. We'd never had a child together,
right?
I was with some friends, and this had to be 4 years ago. And they were telling me about they were buying bulletproof backpacks for their kids to go back to school. And went back and I talked to Courtney and I said, I raised my kids in LA. It was a different LA at the time. School shootings, it wasn't a thing. The football player star football player overdosing on fentanyl was not a thing.
No.
And we had moved to an area outside of Los Angeles where it really wasn't a thing for that actual reason. Then we started talking about getting another home, a small home, a getaway home in the mountains for the family or down on the beach. And so this was happening. And then the pandemic, and this was going to happen after we did the Motley Crue tour. So we were looking and talking, the pandemic happened. All the kids moved back to the house. Everybody moved back. We were completely 3.5, 4 months, complete lockdown. That was the gift.
Right.
We were making dinner together. They weren't coming over on Sunday, hang out for a couple hours, jump in the pool and go home to their apartment. They were coming and not going. And there was a lot of conversations and a lot of memories and a lot about dreams. And when life started getting back, we knew there wasn't going to be another Motley Crue tour. We started looking and we found Wyoming. And we went there and fell in love. And it was very close to where I was raised. We talk about in the book in Jerome, Idaho and Twin Falls, Idaho. As the crow flies, it's 2 hours from my house.
Right.
That's where the idea for the book came. So once we'd moved to Wyoming, we were up there and it kind of got quiet and kind of started working on some different projects. And we ended up with a lot of land. I'm sitting in the back, like acreage, and I'm overlooking the mountains. And I just thought, it was simple. Where'd everybody go?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's 40 years. Like, what happened to, and then cousins and friends and this and that. And it wasn't like, oh, I made it and see you later, peace out. It was like, life just gets busy. And I like to write couplets a lot, 2-3 sentences. And I remember writing to my friends, it's not you that got lost. It's just once I started flying, I forgot how to stop. And I was like, I want to go back and I want to retrace those roots. And I started talking to my manager about it and how there was all these like lessons in it that I later applied in my life and the Motley Crue and the building blocks of fascination of falling in love with music and lyricists and authors and fashion, and how that actually ended up being a version of all that ended up being what I did. And so it's not like, yes, it's about the innocence of being young and the discovery and coming of age, but it's also about being able to go look back on it and go, wow, I didn't even know what I was doing, but yeah. I kind of was building it.
And they always say hindsight's 20/20. So when you look back, it's easy now to say, well, this led me to here. And it's kind of fun in a way, I'm sure, to trace what led you to here and how you get, all that. And being someone, I moved to Los Angeles in 1999 from Montreal, Canada with my band. And we all lived in an apartment in Hollywood and we played the Troubadour, we played the Coconut Teaser. And I did all that. And we got the record deal and we did Ozfest. So I know that feeling, and it's an incredible thing. But when you're doing all that, you're not enjoying it. All you're doing is going to next thing. And you don't savor it. And it's almost like when you're forced away from it. I had a kid and that made me say, I don't want to be on the road. I want to be here for that kid. And I went from touring 10 months a year, nonstop, to working at a Sunglass Hut in a fucking mall. And it was like humbling. But I think those kind of things, going back to your roots, taking yourself out of the situation is humbling. And it's great for the soul because, like you said, we don't look up, we don't look down, we look at people face to face because we're all the same in essence. We all have stories. And what I've always gotten from you, from your writing, from your music, and just from the way I've seen you comport yourself, you like people. You're a people guy.
Yeah, I do like, I find people fascinating.
Same. Everybody's got a story.
Yeah. I used to fantasize. Now it sounds absolutely terrifying with COVID, but I used to fantasize about living in Paris.
Yeah.
And sitting in a coffee shop and writing about that man and that woman and the way that shadow falls across the bridge of the whatever, two lovers and death and everything else that comes, and just sit there and drink coffee and write, or New York, and it's actually the opposite for me. I love people.
Yeah.
But I need to be removed from that to observe better, to be a
Right.
better observer. And then when you can observe, you can then document photography, however you want to, document it with a riff on a guitar. I feel more creative now than I've felt in decades.
That's amazing. That's great. Because a lot of guys who have gone through what you've gone through have gotten to the point that you've gotten to. It's the opposite. They kind of might lose that passion, but that just shows, the driving force behind Motley Crue obviously was you.
I will say, we evolve, right? Motley Crue is the mothership, will always be the mothership. Is the greatest thing that ever happened to me as a career. And meeting Tommy, Vince, and Mick would change my life forever. And I would like to think that I internally, also changed their life, because it was the four of us.
Right.
It was a gang of four, literally. But like the idea at 62, someone's like, man, you should go make Shout at the Devil. Just make that one again. And I get it, but the idea of a album and a comic book series and maybe episodic thriller, maybe writing a progressive sci-fi book that ties in with heavy metal, with different music. I just can't do the one thing anymore.
I hear you.
With the book, writing the book, it was James and DJ agreeing to write a song, us together, called The First 21, that emphasizes the energy of the book that they also experienced in their first 21 years. Is just so, satisfying. It is really, really satisfying. So I think the future is going to be, a blast.
And let's face it. I mean, I think 6 a.m. cemented themselves in music now too. I mean, when I heard Life is Beautiful, I was like, man, there's a lot more to you than just Motley. That's for sure. Cause that song is a pretty powerful song.
What's really great about being a musician is, well, I would never consider myself the right type of musician to be a solo artist. I can be a solo as a photographer. I love that. When I paint, I love that. When I write, I can write by myself. But with music, I used to, in most of Motley Crue's career, I wrote most of the songs. But I love collaboration. So if you put me and the guys in Motley together, and we come up with something new, like the Dirt, that the song for the movie.
Yeah.
You put me and James and DJ together, it could be in the same week, and completely different sounding pieces of music happen. And so I just get excited about like plugging in with those guys, or what if I experimented with that person over there? It's not as simple as like, I'm in Motley Crue. But I am in Motley Crue, and we're going to do a stadium tour. I mean, it's massive and something I can't wait to do. But the brain is like, hey, what else could we do?
Yeah. And
it's not about money. I've talked a lot over the years about finance, and it's not a sexy conversation. And I at some point think I might like to maybe write like a short book on this, because one of the things that bothers me is a guy, a girl, whoever, basketball, actor, entrepreneur, rock star, they work their whole life. From that moment in their first 21 years, they're like, that's what I'm going to do. And they do everything in their power, and they get it. They get the whatever it is, they get the contract, they have hot 2 seasons, and then something goes awry, something goes south. They're living beyond their means, and now they have to make decisions based on money instead of on what they spent their whole life doing. So it'd be like, if I didn't manage my money, and there's been down times in Motley Crue's career, because that happens to all bands, music changes. One day you're the cool kid. One day no one even wants to like acknowledge your name. Then the next day you're the cool kid again. And if you can sit there and go, I can withstand this financially and keep creating, you'll keep creating what's honest.
Yeah.
And that's something for me that's been like really important, is to be able to not do things for money, but what I have done and made money, have managed it well enough so that I could do these other kind of projects. So otherwise, Heroin Diaries, 6 a.m. I had a radio show for 8 years. There's a lot of things you can't afford to do. So I enjoy that passing that on as well. And I'm sure a lot of young people, it's like, shoo, right over their head, and that's okay. But it's important to pass what we've learned on, really is.
110%. Nikki, thank you so much for taking the time today. I got to wrap up. They're giving me Will's giving me the thing, but I will get that info for you for what we talked about to Rose.
Sounds great, man.
Have great chatting with you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Dude.
Right?
Oh my God. I'm so jelly, but I'm so privileged to have been able to edit that. And also you interviewed Tommy Lee a while ago for iHeart.
So we got to get Tommy on the show, and I'm working on that already.
Yeah.
We have to get Tommy on the show because Tommy's another guy that's just a great conversation. So many stories, such a nice guy. And like you said, you said he has the best webcam that you've ever seen, right?
Yeah, definitely best webcam and the mouth of a sailor. So when you
let's tell the story. Let me tell the story. So
sure, go for it.
I had an interview that I did with Tommy Lee, and I was doing it for iHeart Canada, and so we did it, wrapped it up, gave it to Ryan to edit, and I get a call back from iHeart, and they're like, "Listen, we're gonna have to edit that." I'm like, what do you mean by edit it? Like shorten it down? And they're like, no. Every time he swears, we're gonna have to beep that out. And I had to call Ryan and say, Ryan, you've got to take every fuck out of this interview. And when you're talking about a guy's like, dude, fuck, dude, fuck, dude, this is fucking cool. Fuck.
He swore 206 times. I'm not
Was it
kidding.
206 times?
Yeah. And some scenes were edited down, but it's just like it's an every 5-second thing. Like, dude, fuck. Okay, so anyway, dude, we're making this thing fuck, and it was fucking awesome.
Well, if we get Tommy on here, we'll be able to let the fuck flag fly, if you will. So Nikki Sixx is it's crazy, man. When you get a chance to hear this guy talk, and I loved when he was talking about just his appearance and when he was in high school, and it's just, man, he's really easy to talk to. He's not somebody that talks down to you. And I love when he was saying how I like to talk at people, not up or down at them. I like to talk at them. And it's true. And I mean, I really do believe that at where he's at in his career, he's got nothing left to prove. Like, he doesn't have to do this stuff. He could just spend as much time as he wants in the sun, on a beach with whoever he wants to be with. He doesn't have to go out and put himself out there anymore. But I really do believe he likes the work. He likes to do it.
No one has a career like Motley Crue in a sense, where the Rolling Stones have been like a rolling train, if you will. They've always been steady. They're huge in the 60s and 70s. And then from then on, they're the Stones. Don't fuck with us. We're good. But with Motley Crue, you got this band that blows up in the 80s and kind of like burns out right after their biggest album, Dr. Feelgood. Slowly, just kind of Vince quits the band. They try to get another guy, John Corabi, great album. That doesn't work out. Vince eventually comes back, but it's Generation Swine. It's a very convoluted artistic ordeal. That still first tape I ever bought. Grateful for that. But then the Dirt comes out and the band is huge again. Huge. Never been more popular in their lives. And then that goes away. And then the movie comes out. It's the number one movie in the world. That's decades later. They pretty much have had 3 bouts of gigantic success. They own every decade at least once.
This band had called it quits for touring. You remember that, right? They signed a contract and they talk about it.
I didn't believe them.
I don't think anyone believed them. I mean, but they did sign a contract. They did go to all the extent of doing this. I mean, look, the end, the big gravestone, the box set, we're done. Okay. They're done. And then they're like, all right, we're going to do a biopic. Cool. Everybody wants more Crue. So they were brilliant in their execution of making people want more.
Yeah.
Because they go out on guns blazing, biggest tour they've ever done. Tommy's drums on that tour, like that thing that he did, the roller coaster through the entire arena and back. And it was just one of the best stage shows I've ever seen. I mean, I went with Kevin, who's, my guitar player and good friend in Slaves on Dope. And we went to that together, and I've never seen him so excited. Like he was just like, he turned into a 15-year-old kid, like, ugh. And he'd seen them on, I think I know he saw them on Dr. Feelgood. I think he saw them on Theater of Pain, but Kevin goes way back, with Crüe. He saw them really early. I had a chance to see the Dr. Feelgood tour too, and I didn't go. And I remember that, but Kevin was like, this is the best I've seen them. Like they're really, really good. So they went out on top, and to come back and do the biopic is one thing, but then to, have the success of the biopic and have all this new generation of people dying to get into Motley Crue. Like my son was 15 when that movie came out, and he was just, all he talked about was Motley Crue. He thought it was the coolest thing. He thought it was the coolest thing. So it shows you.
Yeah. And, later in life, Motley Crue fan, like I said, when I was 12 years old, I got that tape, but I only got to see Motley Crue when I was like in my early 20s. Yeah. And that was the Carnival of Sin. And that was their big first comeback after the book. And our mutual friend, Mike Babbins, I went up to Ottawa just to check them out because they weren't even in Montreal yet. And we like Detroit Rock City styled our way, to Ottawa to see them live. And I remember it's phenomenal when you've never seen Crüe before because they go all out. They bring the fire. They bring, and this was Carnival of Sin. They really went all out there. That show was like 3 hours long. Like it was insane. Their own opening act. Yeah.
Well, that's it. And then when they did the farewell tour, it was a kind of, the end tour. It was the same thing. It was just like bigger. They had, it was great. And now, there's no way you can put out the Dirt movie and have all of those people that want to see this again and not do it. So when they announced the stadium tour, I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. You can break the contract. It's fine. And that's what Nikki talks about in the first chapter of the book. He talks about how he's at Dodger Stadium and he's having a hot dog and with his booking agent. And he's like, I never played Dodger Stadium. And he's like, yeah, but you signed a contract. Like, you can't do it. And he goes back to his wife and he's like, I never played Dodger Stadium. Like, and then boom, here we go. They're going to be playing Dodger Stadium in 2022. So it's crazy. I think like you, he's always been the guy in the band that I always felt that he was the guy in the band that was keeping everything together creatively for sure. He was, I don't want to say he's the heartbeat of the band because I think that band needs everybody, or it's not,
but
he's the brains, and he's maybe you could say Tommy's the heartbeat, but regardless, it's Motley Crue's Motley Crue, and they could stop doing everything today and they'd still be legends. But I'm just glad that Nikki's still doing stuff. I'm glad that 6 a.m. is doing music. I'm glad that they're going to do shows. I'm sure. They've got that record that came out, which is like a greatest hits package with some new stuff on it. And that first 21's a good song. I'm just glad that people are still talking about Nikki Sixx and Motley because they deserve it, and they definitely beat out the odds. They rode that wave, man. And a lot of people thought that wave was going to crash and burn. And think of all the bands that were part of that first wave with them that are defunct or people, they still, so to me, that cements them with the greats,
sure.
You've got Pink Floyd, you've got Led Zeppelin, you've got the Stones, you've got the Who, you got these great bands. And I think Motley will stand up right alongside them.
The fact that those 4 original guys still can get on stage together, like almost 40 years later, is actually kind of a rock and roll miracle if you really want to think about it, because back then, I'm sure their agents even thought they'd be dead in 6 years. And I mean, literally dead.
dead. Well, I'm really, really grateful for Nikki joining us today. I know it meant a lot to you. It meant a lot to me. So I just wanted to say thanks, a big thanks to Better Noise, a big thanks to RPM for helping us with that. And again, Ryan, it's important. We have to thank ProSpec. If it wasn't for ProSpec strings, musicians wouldn't be as well taken care of as they are. And you can get their stuff anywhere. If you're listening from somewhere else in the world, they got a website and they will deliver to you. So do not worry. If you are someone who is into stringed instruments and all the other things that go along with stringed instruments and more, they've got all that you need. So go check out Prospect Strings. Thank you, Wayne, and the team over there for, again, putting your confidence in us, and we appreciate it. And we'd appreciate you to go check out their website, because they've got some phenomenal stuff that'll blow your mind. For all of you highbrow musicians that sometimes will go to another music store and say, they don't have what I need, Wayne will have what you need at Prospect. So make sure you check them out. Also, thank you to my co-host, Ryan. You're the best. I'm glad you were on a little bit more on this one. And I'll tell you, man, I don't think I could find anybody else to talk Nikki Sixx with that would be better suited than you. So thanks. I appreciate it.
I appreciate being part of this, Jason. We've known each other for all these years, and I've always kind of been the man behind the scenes, and I appreciate you, pulling the curtain back and making me feel like the Wizard of Oz.
Well, and the other thing is too, that you and I have had some pretty great conversations that haven't been recorded. So I think it was about time that we start to share some of these conversations with people, because they're fun. And I've had a lot of people that, that have heard us talk and said, you guys talk about really fun stuff. So that's what we're going to do. And if you're, if you're just joining the Rockman Power Hour and this is your first episode, please, please, please do all that you can to follow us, because we appreciate it. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that little button on the old YouTube. That'll tell you when we are putting out a new episode. And if you are streaming us, just subscribe. And listen, we're going to be keeping to do these every Friday. I think that's what we agreed on, right? Every Friday.
Yeah. And it's great because you could download the episodes too. You could Apple Podcasts. That's like my home. I love that. And I download our show.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it's also, and you can see us on YouTube, which is nice. Well, for some people, they'll enjoy it. Some people won't enjoy it. And if you don't like looking at our faces, just go to a streaming podcast app and you can just listen.
Well, if you don't like the sound of our voices, we also are mimes. So yeah,
exactly. Thank you so much again. Thanks again to our producer, Julia Kajerski, who works tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure this thing goes off without a hitch. And we all know how much work she puts in. Thank you again to H1 Media for our great intro. Thank you to DMC and to Epic for the great theme song. And thank you again to all of you for caring, because that means a hell of a lot to us. And we will see you again next week on the Rockman Power Hour.